6:30 on Monday, May 15th, 2023. I call this meeting of the Corporation of the Township of Terrace Bay to order. First item, declaration. The Council of the Township of Terrace Bay hereby acknowledges that we are in the Robinson Superior Treaty territory, and the land on which we gather is the traditional territory of the Anishinaabe and the Métis. Item 3, addition, deletion, and or amendments. We have 3 additions. 6. Okay, sorry, 2. Ryan is going to give us an update on the boil water advisory. We're moving that to 6.3, and number 9 is bylaw, the agreement with the Terrace Bay Sport Club. Any other additions? Okay, hearing none. We have a motion moved by Councillor St. Louis, seconded by Councillor Johnson, resolved that the Monday, May 15th, 2023 agenda be amended with the addition that I mentioned. All in favor? Okay, carried. Next item, are there any disclosures of interest? Hearing none. Item, adoption of minutes, moved by Councillor Johnson, second by Councillor St. Louis, resolved that the minutes of the regular council meeting held Monday, May 1st, 2023 be approved as presented. All in favor? Carried. Any questions on the agenda or the minutes? Okay, next item, report from administration, CAO clerk. John, go ahead.
Hey, your worship. So the only item I have tonight is with respect to AMO delegation requests. So the 2023 AMO coming up in August. Delegation requests usually go quite some time ahead. So these are due back on June 9th. We do have one more meeting prior to that deadline to finalize the list. From administration's perspective, typically we discuss it tomorrow at the management meeting, but 2 of the delegations that I was discussing with Mayor so far, one was with respectful housing, not supportive housing in this case, though. This is a situation with us and our available lots and housing demand, but a lack of interest in or lack of drawing interest in developers. So that might be something I want to address with the minister, given that the provincial government is pushing so hard for housing. The second one was with respect to infrastructure, specifically the Minister of Infrastructure. To my knowledge, I didn't check today, but the agreements between the federal and provincial governments for programs like OSIP haven't been renewed for project-based funding. So all the OSIP project-based streams have all closed down. The websites are all outdated. They basically say, "Our program, you're not taking intake right now." We still do receive OSIP formula-based funding. That's nowhere near what we typically use that OSIP formula-based funding to leverage what's available on the project side. So that's just a concern of ours as administration. We would look to leverage that funding for projects like the Calgary project or other major infrastructure major infrastructure upgrades identified in our action. So those were the 2 that we would forward as administration.
Questions, John? Anyone have any other suggestions? We have till the next meeting, I guess.
Yeah, you guys want to touch base with the MTO if you would phone on as far as the rest stuff with it's still going ahead this summer.
So as far as we know, they are proceeding. It probably won't be fully operational till next year. But they do plan on undertaking major construction this year. Things like paving may not get done depending on who they attract as a constructor, just given that they may take time to construct it and paving company available. So we may have a gravel functioning site for this winter.
Okay. Anyone else? Just keep that in mind for next meeting. John. Okay, we have a motion moved by Councillor St. Louis, second by Councillor Johnson, resolved that council direct administration to apply for delegations at the 2023 AMO conference with the following ministries and associated topics. And John has mentioned that. All in favor? It's carried. Okay, next item, Danny, finance variance report and budget summary.
Thank you, Richard. So the attached 2023 capital and operating summary and operating expense reports are as of May 8th, 2023, and they include the following. So we purchased the fire truck already this year for the $582,000, and it's fully funded from the fire reserve. Public Works has purchased the V-plow and roller attachments for the trackless for $19,000, which is a $3,000 savings. Columbarium and pad PO has been issued for $8,300, which should lead to savings on the overall project and in crane costs. Be done in early July. The ammonia piping project PO has been issued for $50,000, which is $4,000 over the budget. The Arena North Wall project PO has been issued for $55,000, which is almost half the original budgeted amount. This project is funded from reserves, so it has no impact on the levy anyways, and it will have a completion date for the end of June. As far as the operating budget goes, we've recognized 3.4 of the 7.4 million in operating revenue so far this year. And the expenses are 2.1 million of the 7.3 million, 29%. So 50% of taxes and water have been billed to date. 50% of the ONPF funding has been received to date. We're already at 78% of legal fees already for this year. Snow removal labor is at 62,000 of the $100,000 budget, so we're right on track with that. Filtration, grid replacement, and pool chemicals is $10,000 under budget. The grind floor piping repairs $12,000 budget. The PO was written for 20 to cover additional costs that were recommended by the vendor. The dressing room heater that was budgeted for $9,000, the PO was written for $3,500. And then the curling club lease revenue budget was miscalculated during budget. We have it in for $4,000, but the actual would be $10,000, that's $1,667 a month for 6 months. Overall, other than that, there's no other significant issues or opportunities at this time. This is for information only.
Any questions?
No, good.
Thank you. Okay, we have a motion moved by nobody.
I already signed that.
Yeah.
Give her a crack.
Motion moved by Councillor Dubé, second by Councillor St. Louis. You know. Resolve the council approve of the variance report as presented. All in favor? Carried. Ryan.
Thank you, Your Worship. I don't have anything prepared. I think I'm going to speak to something that's happened in the last few hours. So I'll make this as formal as I can, but it's going to be fairly informal. As everybody I think is aware now, we've just issued a boil water advisory for lots of pressure to the water distribution system. So I'm just going to back up a little bit and give you a little bit of background on where we're at with the lightning strike stuff that we talked a little bit about last meeting. We have issued a PO to a successful vendor from the RFP for all of the work that KGS has recommended from the large study they did, so to speak. Can't remember the amount, $78,000 worth of work. It's been awarded Automation Now. It's good that they got a contract. They're very familiar with the plant. So Automation Now is sourcing all the supplies right now. We don't have an exact date for lead time and stuff for the parts we need, but they came down today to work on transfer switch. As we know, there's lots of issues with the transfer switch, so they're trying to calibrate the transfer switch. So while working on the transfer switch today, first time they switched generated power, the generator did not start, mechanically did not start. So the starter would not turn the generator. We had a mechanic look at it, the generator started. We went back, tried to start it again. It did start, didn't start, didn't start. There's a mechanical issue with the generator. In switching from generated power back to utility power, at some point I'll stop. For some reason unknown to anybody at this time. We don't know if the PLC got confused because there were so many transfers back and forth in working on this transfer switch, but this is kind of sort of new. being that we were back on line power when we lost pressure. We were on generated power. The generator did manage to start on generated power. Everything ran, everything was good. Switched back to generated power and we lost pressure for approximately 2 minutes. It was discretionary whether the health inspector was going to make us go on boil water. The health inspector made the decision to go on boil water. So we got that call at 5:30. This happened around 3:45, the actual event. 5:30, we issued the boil water. It's been communicated throughout the town. That's where it stands right now. We're gonna work as quick as we can to get it back off, which will likely be Thursday. Okay, so there'll be samples taken tomorrow morning. Second set of samples will be taken Wednesday morning. We will drive the samples to Thunder Bay Wednesday, 18 hours after the lab receives the samples. We'll have the results. So it should be sometime Thursday. I don't think I missed anything, but feel free to ask me some questions. Maybe I'll spur me on a little bit.
Like, when they start doing all this work, this gonna be like a regular occurrence.
I hope not. So we haven't had a startup meeting with automation now yet. One thing I'm looking at is wiring. So Aqua owns an emergency generator on a trailer. We actually brought that to the plant today. That's something I forgot to mention. We've got the propane power generator running right now. We're gonna run it throughout the night. We're still on line power. If something happens to line power, it will automatically switch to the generator, but the generator's already running. So everything should switch out okay. Due to the fact that there's something wrong with the starter, we're concerned that we all leave the plant. Something happens to line power, it switches to generator and the generator doesn't start. So it was that decision or get the emergency generator from Aqua wired up. We weren't able to find an electrician tonight. We have 50% propane. There's no concerns now that it's running, so we're gonna stay on generated power for now. Going back to your question, Paul, what we're looking at doing, but I need to start a meeting with automation now once they get all their lead times and everything figured out how we're gonna do this. My thought is to take the mobile emergency generator and power 1 or 2 of the non-VFD drive pumps. So we can shut those off, power those, start that generator, run those pumps, supply the town, shut off the VFD drive generators or pumps and supply the town. I'm not an electrical specialist, as I'm sure you can tell from this conversation. Don't hold me to that. That's my thought on how we're gonna get through the risky times of working on the transfer switch, the buckets, the MCC, the VFDs, all the starters, all that stuff. That is a potential solution right now. We haven't got that far yet.
So was the transfer switch part of the RFP, I guess you could say?
The switch itself works. It's the control for the switch. That's what they're working on. The switch works every single time. The controller is having trouble recognizing when we're not getting full three-phase power. And that's what keeps happening is we get the power goes out, the generator starts. The transfer switch communication sees line power and shuts the generator off, goes back to line power, but we're only 1 phase, 2 phases, 1 phase. So that's what's the big issue here. It's very, very difficult to calibrate a controller close enough to pick up those three phases have to be sort of perfect. And our power supply is not the best. That being said, part of the KGS study was power monitoring, which we did for 30 days. We have hard backup proof that we could go to Hydro One with to prove that we're not getting clean power. And we go anywhere with that, I don't know, but we have that data now. We spent a lot of money getting that monitoring equipment to get that data. We have that data. It's been interpreted by a special engineer going, you aren't getting the power. And that's what the whole thing.
Any other questions? Further.
How are we getting the word out to the public?
I got it on the website, on Facebook. Luke got it on the sign.
I just sent it to CFNO.
And so I got it on CFNO.
Okay,
I
I sent it to
called CFNO.
CFNO, all the schools,
Al
the
Cresswell
mill.
was actually going into work just to put it on the radio for us. And then, again, has a list of, you know, the school, the hospital. I brought a slip to the hospital and the hotel, they're doing businesses open right now. We'll hit the rest of the businesses in the morning before they open, and then,
Yeah.
the school, we've been emailed. Think we got everything covered.
CFNO isn't powered up.
Yeah, it's not working very good, eh?
No.
They're supposed to get it fixed today, actually, and it's not fixed.
No, it's not
4 or
fixed.
5 o'clock. Yeah, it's not working very good.
Hey, did anybody talk to the mill around their?
Yeah, I did, called security.
Okay.
I sent it out and I sent it.
Heard a lot of people are getting CFNO digitally now, and apparently digital, it's working. Like if you put it on your Alexa or whatever, it works. It's the actual in your truck
Yeah,
signal.
Yes.
But Al actually said last week it's supposed to get fixed today.
Yeah.
And it didn't, but they're working on it. But, okay, I think we've got all the bases as covered as we
Yeah.
can, other than going door to door.
yeah.
Hopefully we'll-
Okay, any other questions? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, guy.
Okay, there's no motion for them. Next, Luke. 2023 Experience Ontario Grant application.
Thank you. The Experience Ontario 2023-2024 grant is a competitive program, supports Ontario festivals and events occurring between April 1st of this year and March 31st of next year. Eligible applicants may apply for grant funding up to 50% of eligible costs to a maximum of $125,000 per applicant. So we have submitted an application to the Experience Ontario 2023-2024 application for the 2023 Lighthouse Festival. If successful, we would receive 50% of the budget amount, which means we would receive up to $14,125.
Good, any questions?
No.
I got one, Luke, and I probably for Danny. Do we budget, okay, we don't put money in the budget for grant.
Not the ones we don't know where.
Yeah.
It's actually the case of these ones, we get it. Now.
Yeah. Okay.
This one, it didn't open until April as well, like or the announcement wasn't until I passed rather.
Okay, fair enough. Any questions, Luke?
No.
No, keeping your eye on it, thanks. Okay, there's a motion moved by Councilor St. Louis, second by Councilor Johnson, resolve that council accept 2023-2024 Experience Ontario Grant Application Report as presented. All in favor? Okay, carried. Next item, community transportation program.
Building on the success of the 2014 Community Transportation Pilot Grant Program. In 2018, Terrace Bay partnered with the Ontario Ministry of Transportation, the NTO, for the Community Transportation Grant Program. So this program, now in its 5th year, provides residents of Terrace Bay, Scriber, Jackfish, Rossport, Face Flat with reliable door-to-door transportation to Marathon or Thunder Bay for medical appointments. The service is very popular among local residents and is most commonly used by seniors. COVID-19 restrictions greatly reduced usership. However, we are beginning to see a return to pre-pandemic levels. In 2023-2024, so the program runs from April to April. We expect to provide transportation for 250 local residents. The chart below showing our usership during the pandemic, we were significantly cut down where one-time service was actually shut off, and then we had limitations with only one rider per trip. So administration is aware of the increasing mileage on the community transportation van. Representatives from the MTO have indicated they will not be providing additional funding for new capital expenses. However, administration intends to pursue alternative funding sources for new community transportation vehicle. No recommendations at this time. Support is being provided for information.
I got a question, Luke, who are we gonna look to get funded?
So there's an opportunity right now, to rural transit fund. We would explore that.
My other question, maybe for John, is that something we can talk about at AMO? Or is
Yeah,
that
it is.
logging a dead horse?
Well, we've gone to speak to them about it at Roma. And that was, by the phone afterwards. They confirmed that there wasn't going to be a capital intake, and also no new information on the programs. Might be one to find, but we'll not again.
Yeah.
In the new year. Unless there's an announcement made before it.
So what would that program fund look like, 100% or?
I don't know off the top of my head. You, Stacy.
I wanna say 80. The usual 80/20.
And would we pay for that whole thing, the rest of it, John, or does Scriber chip in, or does anyone else?
No, that one's our program.
Any other questions?
So if the program comes to an end, does that mean at the end of service, or you just keep using the vehicle till we can't anymore?
So I believe, yeah, if I'm mistaken, it would be like a budget decision. So right now we receive operating money from the MTO to fund the program, as well as set by riders actually paying for rides. So if the operating money from MTO were to end, then we'd like to continue the program. That money would then go to a budget decision. Is that correct?
Correct.
We bring it forward in
Yeah, sure. Thanks.
John, similarly on the capital purchase vehicle, it's not something that's gonna break the bank for Terrace Bay, so.
Yeah.
Look at on our own if we're unsuccessful applying to the grants. But we'll try all the other avenues first and see where we go.
Sounds good. Any other questions? Okay, thanks, Luke. Okay, we have a motion moved by Councillor Johnson, second by Councillor St. Louis, resolve the council accept the community transportation 5-year program report as presented. All in favor? Carried. Next one, Luke, Green Initiative.
During visioning sessions for the 2022-2023 Terrace Bay strategic plan, local residents expressed that they want Terrace Bay to become a greener community, community garden and tree planting, as well as environmentally responsible. So this week, actually ended up having to pick them up Friday. Terrace Bay will receive 250 red pine, 250 spruce saplings that will be sold to the general public. These trees are subsidized in part by Canada's 2 billion trees commitment. If properly cared for, these trees will live 200 to 400 years. And as a mature tree will remove about 22 kilograms or 48 pounds of carbon dioxide each year. If half these trees reach the end of life, they will remove approximately 1,100,000 kilograms of CO2 from the atmosphere. Beyond that, there is a growing demand for a community garden in Terrace Bay. Administration, in partnership with Lake Superior High School, has identified the green space between St. Martin's Catholic Church and the Cultural Center parking lot as an ideal location for this initiative. The community garden consists of approximately 25 individual raised garden beds constructed by the Superior High School students. We're hoping to have some garden beds in place before June 1st and expect to complete this project in advance of the 2024 growing season. Project costs will be shared between the township and Lake Superior High School, and the costs have been accounted for in the 2023 budget. No recommendations at this time. This report is provided for information.
No questions. How much are the trees going for? Luke, how much you selling them for?
3 for 5.
And the other question is, how big are these garden beds?
4x8.
4x8.
Yeah, we're hoping, just with the budget, we're gonna have 130 boards. And it's 9 boards per 4x8. So, and then that's realistically with time school year, we're hoping to have a few built by the end of the year. And then if not, I can pick that up with my outdoor class in September. And then we'll see how much money rolls in and believe we'll can in the next year.
Any other questions? Okay, thanks, Luke. We have a motion moved by Councilor St. Louis, second by Councilor Johnson, resolve the council accept the Terrace Bay Green Initiative report as presented. All in favor? Carried. Item Stacy, 5-month raising of the flag.
Thank you, Your Worship. So as you know, June is Pride Month. Pride Month is an entire month dedicated to uplifting the 2 LGBTQI+ voices. celebration of the culture, support of their rights. So throughout the month of June nationwide, there have traditionally been parades, protests, drag performances, live theater, and memorials and celebrations of life for members of the community who lost their lives to HIV and AIDS. It is part political activism, part celebration of the two LGBTQ plus community achieved over the years. The progress flag includes and celebrates the diversity and historical LGBTQ plus communities with the addition of black, brown, pink, light blue, and white stripes to represent black and brown people of color, trans, gender non-binary, intersex, and all of those across the gender spectrum. So our current discussion today is that the Progress Pride flag incorporates elements that focus on inclusion and progress within the community and is being widely used by communities throughout Canada, including some of our local schools and neighboring municipalities. The Progress Pride flag flying in Terrace Bay is a reminder to all residents and visitors that we value respect, inclusivity, diversity, and equality, and that discrimination has no place in our community. The last 2 years, Council has supported a resident's letter of request to raise a Pride flag every year in support of Pride Month. Administration is committed to providing environments that are inclusive and free from discrimination, where all individuals can feel safe and a sense of belonging. In support of these efforts, excuse me, and to demonstrate our ongoing support of the two LGBTQ plus community, administration is requesting that the progressive flag be raised outside the Tourist Information Center starting June 1st for the entirety of Pride Month, as well as for the duration of the tourism. Financial implications. Historically, the Township of Terrace Bay has purchased a Pride flag from Thunder Bay Pride Committee for a small donation fee of approximately $13. I have two options ahead today that council support raising the progressive flag for the month of June and throughout the tourism season, or B, that council does not support raising the progressive flag and direct administration otherwise. Our recommendation today is that council support the raising of the progressive flag.
Any question?
No, I think it's something like you said, we've done in the past, and I would hope we can continue to do it.
Did we always leave the flag up throughout the tourism season?
No, we did only do it for the month of June. However, with some new initiatives coming forth and some studies coming forth from Destination Northern Ontario, I'm suggesting that we do for the full tourism season, just so that that community feels welcome to come stop in Terrace Bay, because there is a stigma in Northern Ontario that we aren't welcoming, and this is a first step to do so.
When's the tourism season? In the middle of September?
Generally, it usually is in September, but we have actually in the recent past expanded it to October due to nice weather.
Do we replace any flag that's there, or is there next?
I've kind of done some asking around and I haven't received a clear answer to that. But there was possible concern for the Franco-Ontarian flag. They do usually do a yearly request to raise the flag, and I wouldn't intend to replace that completely if that is the case.
I can speak to that a little bit. So there are 4 poles over at the tip. The fourth pole, the fourth western pole, is actually erected by the Franco-Ontarian Club with the intent of having their flag flown year round, given the significant French population in Terrace Bay. So the other 3 poles are occupied by the Canadian flag, the Ontario flag, and in the past, the American flag. But that 4th pole to the east is now typically used for your municipal flag or whatever other flags have been requested for the community to raise. The one request we typically do get, as Stacey pointed out, on an annual basis is the Franco-Ontarian flag, which happens in September. However, we fly the flag year round anyway, so it's not taking away a pole space. This shouldn't be a problem in a roundabout way to answer the question.
So I guess the question then, will we remove one of those flags to put up the Pride flag, or?
We just wouldn't erect the American flag this year. Yeah, if we even, so I don't know if we've
No.
done the American flag in the last couple of years, so it's been a few years.
Any other questions? Okay, health safety. We have a motion moved by Councillor Dubé, second by Councillor Duno. Result the council approve raising a progressive Pride flag for the month of June and throughout the tourism season. All in favor? Carried. Next one is Lakehead University's agent in place in Terrace Bay, the final report.
Thank you, Your Worship. So Lakehead University has completed their 2-phase study in the fall of 2020 and presented their final report, as you know, aging in place in Terrace Bay, to the committee in early 2021. The committee reviewed the document in detail and met in June 2021 to discuss the report's recommendations to be presented to council. So just to go over a couple of those key points, the report related specifically to housing. So the topic of additional housing structures was explored, and while many stated that there was a need for seniors housing, most were reluctant to admit that they would move into such a place. The majority want to stay in their homes, and while they can understand how this is not a long-term option, given the gaps that exist due to a lack of resources and labor in the community, they are still not immediately interested in moving out. Participants are also less likely to be interested or knowledgeable about the non-traditional housing. Significant gaps were described related to housing and homes. Addressing these gaps may go a long way in supporting the older population to remain in their own homes. Most people preferred to remain in their own homes as they got older, but were activities that became more difficult to do, such as cleaning, cooking, maintaining your yard, and like home maintenance. Many participants have not considered the need to purchase some of these services as they got older. So having taken into consideration these key points, along with many of the other gaps identified in the detailed study and summary, the committee believed and still believes strongly in continuing to support our aging population by endorsing the report's recommendations. The aging in place and Terrace Bay summary and full report is still available on township website. So our current discussion is that the suggestion to hire a coordinator specifically dedicated to assisting our seniors with aging in place is still a course of action being sought after. The individual would be focused on facilitating solutions that would begin bridging the gaps in the services identified. So while administration was unfortunately unsuccessful in securing funding for a coordinator, an age-friendly action plan, expansion of seniors programming or services through various grant streams as reported in 2022, administration was successful in extending the partnership with Lakehead University to reevaluate the need of our supportive housing. This extended partnership secured university student to conduct a follow-up 3 years later, as recommended by our Aging in Place report. So with support of administration, Lakehead University completed the follow-up interviews to explore the impact of COVID-19 pandemic on the community and the challenges seniors face in continuing to age in place during and after the pandemic. The goal was to explore what changes had occurred since the original Aging in Place in Terrace Bay report from the perspective of various community members. The final report addendum to our Aging in Place in Terrace Bay study discusses the progress on the categories of the recommendation and processes made since the final report's release. The document is attached to this report and will be made available on the township website. In addition to the final report addendum, administration continues to work with the Lakehead University student as the partnership has been further extended into the summer. While applications for an Aging in Place coordinator were unsuccessful thus far, this additional extension of this partnership provides the township of Terrace Bay with additional resources that allow for further exploration of implementation of the report's recommendations. Together, the student and administration are collaborating on gathering resources to produce a document that will break down the recommendations and their implementation into actual action items. So there are no financial implications at this time, as this report is for information. I have two options before you today: to approve the Lakehead University's Aging in Place in Terrace Bay final report addendum, or not to approve the Lakehead University's Aging in Place in Terrace Bay final report addendum and direct administration. A recommendation to approve the report.
Any questions? Bert, do you have anything to add about what we talked about the other day?
Well, first, before that, I was just wondering if maybe we could bring the difficulties, to the senior ministry for senior affairs
At AMO.
at AMO, yeah.
Yeah, that's,
The other thing about the building itself, Patty hasn't gotten back to me yet. He's supposed to at her earliest convenience. Kevin Holland did today. And right on time, as he, the time that he said he'd call. And he was wondering, Conmy got a grant a year ago. It was the community preparedness grant, and they used that to as part of funding for their supportive housing project. And he asked if we still had any left of that grant. I wasn't aware of.
Just clarification, community preparedness or municipal modernization?
Sorry, municipal modernization, sorry.
So we don't have any money left.
So, I'd have to check with the treasurer for the exact amounts. We have used some of that funding, I believe, for natural gas projects as well as, records management system implementation. Is there? Yeah, the church project, I'm not sure. Did we use that for fiber optic? Yeah, so we've applied a lot of that to projects already ongoing in the community, sorry. It doesn't mean there isn't any money left. We can check it out, bring it back to the next meeting if council desires, it's not a problem. Or you can just send it out in an email. Or
Mr. Holland is looking into any other possibilities for us, and will get back to us as soon as we find it.
Any other questions with Stacy? Okay, thanks, Steve. We have a motion moved by Councilor Duno, second by Councilor Dubé, resolve that council approve Lakehead University's aging in place and Terrace Bay final report as presented. All in favor? Carried.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Stacy. Thank you. Next item is the Thunder Bay Auto Sport Club request. This is, it's been a number, quite a few years they've been using the airport for their what do you call it, tests in June or whatever. But anyways, the money they make, they do put it back into the community. They give money, I think last year was to the food bank, they give it to the animal shelter, McCausland Hospital. I think they used to go to the Sea Cadets before too, so last year wasn't much, like 800 some bucks, but yeah, and the year before is like 17 or 1800. I think we split between two groups, but anyway, it is a good, chunk of money to the volunteer groups around town. So, anyways, any questions on the letter, Gary?
Do we direct where they donate, or they decide?
They asked us if we want the money sent to.
Yeah, this has been going on for quite a few years, and
At least 4 or 5.
yeah, and we've never had an issue with it. It's always been a good event.
Yeah. Yes. So any questions? Okay. We have a motion moved by Councilor Duno, second by Councilor Dubé, resolve that council approve the annual request and agreement from the Thunder Bay Auto Sport Club for the use of the property at the Terrace Bay Airport on July 28th, 29th, and 30th, 2023, and the appropriate bylaw be brought forward. All in favor? Terry? Okay, next item is bylaws here. We have a motion moved by Councilor Dubé, second by Councilor Duno, resolved that council approve a bylaw to enter into an agreement with the Thunder Bay Auto Sport Club and the Corporation of the Township of Terrace Bay be read first, second, and third time, and finally passed, signed by the mayor, clerk, sealed and numbered on this 15th day of May 2023. All in favor? Carried. No questions, John? No other business?
Any questions for question period? I just put it back in the chat. Just give it 10 seconds here. Going once. Going twice. And a third time. No questions from me online.
Nothing, Bill? Okay. Next item moved by Councilor Duno, or Dubé, second by Councilor Duno. Resolve that the next regular council meeting be scheduled for Monday, June 5th, 2023. All in favor? Carried. And the last item, moved by Councilor Juno, second by Councilor Dubey. Resolved that we now adjourn at 19:09. All in favor? Carried.